it wasn't only me getting myself to that gold medal. It was all these parents, it was all these teachers, it was obviously my family back home, but like there were a lot of others that contribute to your success, which is why again we're watching Milan and you're seeing those players and they flash to their families and the people
Yeah.
back home, the watch parties back home, and all the like these athletes have so much support, and you know some of it, maybe you don't realize it till like after the fact, but it takes so many people to get you to that podium.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Things No One Tells You. All right, I am so excited for my guest today because she's one of my favorite people that I was working with during the Olympics. Angela Ruggiero is a four-time Olympic medalist. She won gold with the women's hockey team in 1998 in Nagano. But she was my analyst covering women's hockey at these Olympics. And so if you were able to catch us on TV, you probably know her story. She's also a Hall of Famer. It was so much fun to be there with Angela and to have her be able to give me her perspective while we were watching things unfold for the women's team and watching them ultimately win the gold medal with her was like, so amazing. But Angela's story is just fascinating because she grew up in California. How she got into hockey is just really cool. But more than that, like what she has done for this sport and just learning what it takes kind of to be an athlete, but also in any industry or any part of life, there's so much stuff that's relatable with the things that she sheds light on. So, things no one tells you with Angela Ruggiero. I can't wait for you to hear what she says that is for her. And I hope that you love this episode. All right, Angela, I'm so glad to see you again. And so I want to set the table on where we left off because we were in studio in Stamford, Connecticut, and the women had just won gold. It was wild. And you were about to go hop a flight later that night. And then I feel like that was it. So tell me what happened next.
So yeah, the adrenaline was rushing, as you know. We had so much fun calling in the studio together, and then I had to sprint back to my hotel, get my bag, get a red eye to go to. I had went to Italy that night to be a part of the last 3 days of the Olympics, and yeah, I got to go to speed skating, see the men's hockey final, see some of the American women's hockey players literally the next day at USA House in Milan. So it was a whirlwind of emotions and energy and no sleep, and it's okay. That's what it's meant to be.
What was it like when you saw the women's team, members of that team for the first time when you got there?
Well, I think you probably feel the same way because we've been covering throughout the whole Olympics. You know their stories. I know some of them personally. I played with some of them. Some of them I don't know personally, but I like mesmerized by their play. It was just really cool to see them all in person, give them a hug, congratulate them. They were still on a huge high, hadn't slept, raspy voices from their celebration. Um, but just so proud of them, honestly, at the end of the day, for what they had accomplished and the way that they did it. And as a an Olympian myself, a member of that first gold medal team in '98 and several teams after, just to see the almost like the next generation show up like that in the form that they did and the resilience that they displayed. It was like admiration for them and happiness for them because I know what it felt like to get the medal. So yeah, there were a lot of emotions in there outside of just kind of commentating and calling the game and appreciating like what they did in detail. Coupled with my own experience and my relationship. So I was just really excited to be there, give them a hug and just say congratulations in person. Before the
That also
storm, when they hit American soil, it's like everyone wants a piece of them and wants to meet them and congratulate them, which is what they deserve. So you're almost in a bubble at the Olympics. Like there's only so many places you can go. So it's nice to talk to them there.
Which is right. What's funny about that is like when you say the bubble, that's how on a very different level, because I'm not an athlete, I didn't compete or win anything, but like that's how I felt coming out of my bubble of coverage for that like 2.5 weeks, because there's this interesting like re-entry thing that happens where I feel like I was so excited to like come back to my family and just be back in the grind, but you're kind of like, these highs and
Yeah.
lows, I assume that it must be what it feels like to win something big with the team, because it's like people kind of can't relate
Yeah,
sometimes, or you don't know how to explain it because it's just like these feelings, like your body has physically been through so many
totally.
emotions. And for me, it was just riding along with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the Olympic letdown in some ways. I
Yeah.
think what we experience in the studio is like a microcosm of what the Olympians experience because they've prepared their whole lives for that moment. And yeah, your point of adrenaline. I mean, my adrenaline was pumping. We're on live TV. You and I are like playing jazz together, making sure we're talking about these players and in the
Yeah.
right way. And this is their moments. You want to nail it. You want to make sure everyone knows who they are and what they did. And yeah, I felt the same way coming back. I'm like, yeah, like reentry is like, whew, like slow the roll. I need to sleep. I'm tired. You don't realize you're on that adrenaline high for so long. But I think the athletes,
Yeah.
they're on an adrenaline high, but they're also, there's just so much emotion across their life, their families, their communities, the things that they bring that gold medal back to, coupled with kind of their physical energy they're bringing back. So yeah, I felt the same way. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, my kids, my family, I'm gotta like get some
Right.
sleep.
I was thinking too about for you, assuming that it must be a really complex type of thing that you were experiencing in that time too, even like going on the plane, getting to Italy because of what you've done as an athlete and an Olympian yourself. To your point, you understand what those emotions are like for them. Also, you have mentored, more than one of those players, played with more than one of those players. And so I was curious to see, like, I was assuming that you were maybe having just reliving certain things, like, and what was that like for you? Now that you've had a little bit of time to like
Yeah.
process what that whole thing was like.
Yeah. So it's funny, I was closer to the team that won in Pyeongchang. I actually got to give them their medals.
Mhm.
I retired in
Yes.
2011, so I overlapped with a lot more players in the 2018 team. But even this team, um, there were quite a few players that I didn't. There's things that I didn't even know. They told me, right. So Megan Keller pulls me aside and goes, "Who scored the
Who
game-winning
scored the
goal?"
game-winning
She
goal?
said, "My
Yeah.
dad pointed you out, Angela, when you were playing and I was young, and said, 'Watch her. You got to play like her.' And you were the first women's hockey player I ever watched, ever paid attention to."
Oh my
I was like, "I didn't know
god.
that." I met Megan Keller. I love her. I was like, "I love your game." When I saw her play at Boston College, I'm like, "That kid is amazing," right? There's KK Harvey, who you and I were like, "Oh my God, she got MVP. She was amazing." I wrote
Yeah.
her a letter years ago. I think in the last Olympics, Beijing, they had all the alumni that wore the same number write a letter, and she's like, "I still have the letter you
Wow.
wrote me. Where you were number four, I didn't wear number four." There's these little bits that you're still tethered to, and obviously Hillary Knight and Kendall Coyne and Alex Carpenter. There's some players I actually physically played with. So for me, it's like I'm having this really full circle moment. Not only like fangirling them because we covered them and I was like, "Oh, it's the best hockey
Yeah.
ever." I was like so impressed by them. But also I'm like a emotional like, "Oh yeah, I did play, like, oh yeah, I was a halfway decent hockey player and my job was back then to inspire that next generation." And like you don't even know what you've done, right? Until you have those little moments. So that was really cool for me, like seeing them, appreciating them, telling them how awesome they were, which I said, "You guys are the best team ever," and hopefully that meant something. But then having these little stories kind of tether themselves out when I was over there was like really fun for me. It was like special. And um, it's their torch now. Like they're the ones that are inspiring that next generation, that kids will write letters to them and pull them aside. And so that's like for me, the like, okay, Angela, you're an old alumni now, which is fair. But you're still sort of tied to the current generation and look at what they're doing. It's like a proud mom almost feeling.
Yeah, but also, wow, like it's really special that you get to see that moment of impact because I think probably not everybody gets to see that. That's really
It's
powerful
rare.
that you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
it's rare
yeah,
because yeah, typically you're at a distance and it's through a camera and they're talking, like but to be with them physically and like hear their stories right after they win. And again, remembering how it felt for me and my teammates and the relationships we have to this day. I'm like, you got, and I was always telling them, I said, you guys have made friends for life. You will, that WhatsApp chain I was telling you about,
Yeah.
the 98ers, like the 2018s, like these teams stay together for life. And I'm like, that's what you guys just created. You created this memorialized sort of sisterhood that will carry on forever. And so I know that in advance. They don't realize that, but I'm like, I know this, you're gonna like, you guys are all gonna be at each other's weddings, and your kids are gonna play together, and you're gonna, talk about the next team, 15, 20 years from now. So yeah, I got to see that and hear that, and be a part of the, USA hockey community.
Well, for people that I said this on air, we shared it, but for people that might not have seen that part of our coverage together, Angela has a group chat from the 98ers when you won gold, right? That's
Yep.
from Nagano, correct? And she was texting with them during the gold medal game and sharing some of this stuff, which is awesome. And that's exactly what you were saying. Like they're going to be friends for life, whatever. Really amazing. But really, it's like, so does that make you realize anything, since you've had that really unique experience too, of that full circle moment of the giving back part of it too? Like, cause that is so rare that you're able to really see how that has manifested
Yeah,
a
I
little
think
bit.
because I've been sort of out of hockey for a bit. I'm coaching my kids. I work for the Rangers for a little bit. I'm like in and out of hockey. I've been running my company and kind of more on the business side of sports. And across all sports, not just hockey. So I haven't technically been like coaching like a college
Mhm.
team or super close to some of these players. You almost forget. So that, like, I almost forgot the what my impact had been in some weird way, or the feelings of being an athlete. And then when we're watching, when we're commentating, when we're there physically, when you see that when you're in the rink, or when you hear the anthem, or like there's these certain moments that, or you smell the air of our ice rink, like brings you right back. And that's fun for me to come back in those ways, to like see the team, see the jersey. You see my jersey in the background. Um,
Yes.
Smell the air of the rink, even, hear the sounds. Like I know what they're going through. You don't have to explain anything. And so to be back in it like that is just a you could sense it on my probably in my energy in the studio when we were working together. Like I'm just so proud of these guys. I'm
Yeah.
excited for them. I'm nervous for them too. Like I don't have control like I did when I was on the ice. So I'm like, "Oh God, please figure it out." Um,
Oh my God. Those games too. That game was so, I mean, okay, literally. So I'm talking to the producer and I'm like, at what point do I say to Angela, here's what we have to ask about
yeah,
Canada? Because I'm like, shit, they're going to lose this
yeah,
game. And I'm like, I strategically did not want to bring up that moment until I had to, because I'm like, I don't,
yeah.
and thank
Well, it's
goodness.
funny, Lindsay. So I'm over in Milan the next day, literally, and I see Hillary Knight. And I'm like, Hill, oh my God. Like I go, I couldn't have scripted it better. I wanted you to score. We had all these graphics. You're gonna break the record for goals, assists. You're gonna get the game winner. You're gonna be the hero. I was like, we couldn't have scripted it better. And I said, right at the end, I got so nervous though. And of course, she reminds me, like, Ange, you think you're gonna win till like the buzzer. I'm like, you're on the ice. I wasn't. When you're playing hockey, if you're the most elite athlete in the world, which she is, and those teammates, the best team in the world, you're not thinking what you and I are thinking kind of over here and me being out of the game. They're like, we're going to score.
Right.
When are we going to score? Who's going to do it? There's still, you have to have that belief, that positive mindset. And like, that's what she said to me right away. We knew we were going to score, Ange. Like we was just like, who's going to do it? And it was like this confidence that I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. When I'm playing, when I remember playing, you do not give up till the buzzer. And us, you and I are going in the studio like, oh God, I hope they can pull it off. And we're nervous because we can't
Right.
control it. But in all of their heads, which is so funny, all of them are saying the same thing. We were gonna win that game. And when they scored that tying goal, they all said we're definitely winning this game. Like something switched in their head. And so it took a veteran like Hillary to be like, Ange, of course we're gonna tie the game. Like this is, meanwhile you and I are like, oh
Yeah. Like,
God, what
why
do we
would you
do?
ever doubt?
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Yes! Right. But so how old are you when is that something that you're born with, or is that a mindset, adaptability that you sort of gain along the
I
way?
think you gain it along the way. I think you generally have a positive outlook. You have to believe in yourself. Um, believe you're going to be an Olympian. Believe you're going to be a champ. Like you, all these kids have similar stories of like, oh, I had the Olympic rings on my door, or I told my parents when I was 5. Like you have to have that innate idea that you're going to do something and go in that direction and push yourself in that way. But the difference of like a silver and a gold or a medal or no medal is this like it's what every elite Olympian or pro athlete I think has to have in the back of their head that like that they're going to manifest it. They're going to make it happen. It's you have to you have to internally believe or else you self-defeat, right, in advance. So I think that's developed along the way where you're like, "Oh, I believed and we scored. I believed and we won. I believed and we came back from nothing." When I coach my kids teams, that's what I'm trying. Guys, we're down by 5. Who cares? We can still do this. If you've self-defeated yourself and you're just like, yeah, we're gonna lose you'll never come back. But like, oh, you came back from 5-0 and you won that game. Like, oh, we can do this, and then you do it again and again and again, and then you realize at some point like you have control. So yeah, I think it's something that's a little bit of both. Like you're born with that optimism, but you accumulate these reps on net where you're like, no, we have to believe or else we're gonna lose. And think about how many times we self defeat ourselves in life, where we're like, oh, I'm not going to get that job, or I'm not going that this thing's not going to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and then that's what you believe. Like you go the other direction, like nothing ever works out for me direction, versus like everything's going to work out for me direction. I think those Olympians, like again, that very best, which this team to me proved they had, it's like we're going to win no matter what, even if we're down by a goal with 2 minutes to go.
I'm processing right now because you're exactly right. Because I'm thinking about the Tom Brady pulling his team back from being down, you know what I mean? Like in the Super Bowl, like all these, you're right. It's like elite athletes across all sports too. That's
And
a
Tom
common thing
Brady
that you
was
can.
probably going, I'm going to make these guys think what I think and convince them they were going to win. And so now you have a whole team mentally going, we're going to win this game. And Hillary Knight being on the bench going, guys, who's going to score? Who's going to do that? She ended up doing it herself. But like you have a whole team of kids
Right.
essentially and some veterans. But like, and I've experienced that on my hockey teams, which is why, like you learn this in sport in a safe way. Like no one dies. You don't win, you win the gold, you win the silver, you don't medal, but you learn it. And then you're like, oh, wait a sec. At least I'm like, oh, you can use that in the real world. That manifestation.
Yes.
It's not a
Yeah. So
sports thing.
how would you, right. So, okay. Do you have an example of like how you could use that in the real world?
You have you have to figure out what you want. To me, that's the hardest part. Most people don't know what they want. So if they pick something they don't really want, it doesn't work out for them. But if you pick something you really love, a school, uh, you want to go on a trip somewhere, you want to you want to get a job, something small, you want to go to the movies, you can make that happen. You're literally in control of your life. And that's I think the thing that sports to me is amazing. It's like or you could say, well, I can't afford the movies today, or I'm never going to get in that school, or like I can't get that job, and then boom, not going to happen. Um, anyway, that's been my experience at least. But yeah, the Tom Brady's, the best leaders in the world can convince everyone around them that that's possible. And that's what I heard coming out of Hillary's mouth. She's like, yeah, I leaned over to Kendall. It's like, we're going to win this. So you're like, who's going to score? Who's going to get this? And she ends up scoring, which is like another Tom Brady type of parallel.
Yeah. And I can't get enough of the conversation about the word belief because so I feel so I realized this actually from this Olympic experience, I think, because there was something so special to me about being able to watch, especially these gold medal games play out with you. And on the flip side, with the men, with like TJ and Anson, who are the analysts, like, because your all's insight, especially you, because you have been on this stage and you have won, you've medaled 4 times, including the gold. Like, there was just there's something that you can't describe about being able to watch a moment in time that is going to be historic play out, but also sitting there with someone who has this inside knowledge of it. I don't know that I've ever really felt that, because even if we're talking about well, maybe a World Series, maybe that's why I feel so strongly when it's been like, if I've covered the Nationals winning the World Series or the Capitals winning the Stanley Cup. Those were no moments that like literally knocked me down, and I could cry
Love
talking
it.
about them right now, because it's like, because you know the
Yeah.
players. So being in that moment, I think for me with you was like, oh my God, I have just realized what it is that I love so much about my job. It is the moment of that. It is having the luxury, like the truly crazy, what's the word I'm looking for? Just opportunity to watch this thing that is about to happen, that is going to change lives. Lives are changed. It is the greatest moment for some people ever. Like, to just the ridiculous, amazing situation of having that opportunity in the first place. But then, like, seeing it play out, it is like, you really can't describe
Yeah.
that. So I have realized that, like, as many times as I could possibly bottle that, that is my dream
Yeah.
job. Like, so,
No, it's so
that would be everyone's,
no,
right?
it's so fun. And again, having played and now covering it with you, and you and I loved working with you. It was so fun. Because you got
Yeah.
to figure out how to then express what you're feeling or you're seeing, which to me is just like, well, of course, this is what's going on in the locker room. It seems so obvious to me, but I'm like, oh no, it isn't. Let me
Right.
just say what I'm thinking. And your ability to kind of, okay, let's describe that to people, because I know what you know is like people might be introduced for the first time ever to women's hockey and go, whoa, that was amazing. I've never, girls, boys get signed up for hockey. We'll see registrations through the roof because of this. Um,
Yes.
the where I was when I won that medal, that Megan Keller goal or that Jack Hughes goal, like I know where I was type of feeling. Like that's that next generation. And having been a player living in that little bubble, and then you come home and you're like, whoa, I don't know how many people came out of the woodwork. This is where I was. This is how you inspired me. This is my kids signed up. Like you hear that over the years and you're like, oh my God, I was just playing hockey. I was just doing my game. And then you
Yeah.
realize the impact you had. And now you and I having the opportunity and honor of like bringing that into people's lives in some ways is like so cool. I loved it too. I had so much fun because, yeah, I knew in some ways like this, because it turned out the right way too. You
Right.
know the amplification effect that it's going to have. It was so fun.
I also think, to your point about the right way, I am actually really grateful that the first time we worked together was 22 when it didn't happen, because there was something about setting the table and getting the education from you to lay the groundwork for this
Yeah.
time. I know that sounds
Yeah. Yeah.
weird, but I just, that was pretty, it was a really cool, unique experience. And also, before I dive in, because I want you to share a little bit about how you got started in hockey, your experience, all that. Um, when you're talking about like the note that you wrote, one thing that I do think that I hope people take from this is, and from your perspective, is like just the power of the giving back, but also like that type of thing. I remember once I had a coordinator from an NFL team come up to me and be like, "Hey, thanks for writing that note." Like, I thanked him for something, for time he took with an interview, which, now I feel like people can send emails, whatever you do. But he was like, people don't do that anymore. And I know people do, but I think sometimes, especially like in my line of work, you're doing interviews, da da da, you don't typically do that. But I think that there's such power in just taking the moment to either tell someone like that, yes, you love their game,
Mhm.
or write them a note. That's one of the things that it's like, those things matter,
Mhm.
and you don't always see it. You don't always know, but I think that's really
Yeah.
cool that you shared that. Um, so you moved away when you were really young. Can you share part of that story? Cause I also think that that's a really interesting, piece to this sport that, a lot of people actually have.
Yeah, so I grew up in Los Angeles, and there's not a lot of hockey there. There's actually a lot more now than there was. But my my brother played, my sister played 2 years, then she stopped. But there wasn't a lot of hockey if we wanted to continue to pursue it on a real level. So when I was 14, I had played on the first ever girls team formed in California. We were like 12 to 19 year old and age range, just to give you a sense. We came out east. We played in a summer tournament in Connecticut, and I got seen. And I was 14 at the time, and they said, "Oh, she's pretty good, and she's got really good grades." And yeah,
And did you love it at that point, by the way? You were like enamored by the sport?
I loved hockey. I loved it. But that was the first girls team I was on. So I was used to like boys and called names and picked on and cut from teams and the guys on my team were always great. They were like my brothers. But it was, it was kind of but it was a little bit of a different locker room feel. I'd go change and then come in towards the end and
Mhm.
you didn't have that like camaraderie chemistry that then when I switched to girls hockey was like, oh, this is so fun, the locker room and the music and the stupid dancing. And it was just a very different vibe as a 14-year-old. But I loved hockey at that point. And so, yeah, I got an opportunity to go to Choate Rosemary Hall, a prep school. And my dad grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, so we knew of Choate. Never dreamed that I would get
Mhm.
to go there. And I from California, no, like kids don't go to prep school. It's not like East Coast, it's like a thing out there. Just, it's not even in your vocabulary. So I signed up. My mom said this would be a great opportunity, but I didn't really know what I was signing up for until I was basically on the plane moving away from home at 14. And it really was to get an education and to be able to continue to play hockey and hopefully get seen by college scouts, which was sort of where my head was at that point in time. But yeah, it was crazy. I was on my own at the age of 14.
Were you nervous?
Oh my God, so nervous. So nervous. Will I fit in? Are my grades going to be good enough? This is a really hard academic school. The hockey, actually, I was like the best player on the team as a freshman because I went from boys hockey, getting pushed around and like pushing back, to girls hockey. I'm like, oh, like, wow, I can excel here. I think that was the first time I realized I was actually pretty good at hockey when I switched over to the girls side. Um, but no, like, I think more like socially when your parents aren't there and you're on your own and
Yeah.
you're having to figure it out. And this is before, FaceTime. So I'm on a phone, a physical phone, talking to my family every night at 7:30 on the dot to check in. I mean, that's all I had between then and, Christmas when I got to go home and summer. So it was a huge, huge shift for me. But I think it was the right one. Again, the education I got and the opportunity to kind of really be seen by scouts and made the national team the following year. So my parents sort of
It's
made the right
wild.
call, but yeah, absolutely intimidated and scared and all those things. And but again, it taught me a lot. Like you're capable of more than you think, and it's going to be hard at first. And once I adjusted, I flourished. Once I like figured out how to what do I do and how do I act and how do I manage my time and at first it was a little rocky, but then once I got into my groove, I was class president and I made the national team and I was like, oh, this is the best environment for me to really, and all these amazing teachers were around me helping me, even though my parents weren't there, that I stay in touch with to this day. So it's yeah, it was the right call, but it was definitely hard at that age.
Wait, what did those teachers that you stayed in touch with say after like your Olympics, after your gold?
They're just so proud of me, honestly, because they knew me as a little kid, right? They helped, nurture me and support me, not just academically, but emotionally. So, Alex Evoy, who lives up the road, I'm still close to her and her daughters who are now grown up, who are little kids. Um, the Ray Diffley, who was the admissions officer, wrote this really cute, and Hillary Knight went to Choate too, by the way. So he wrote this
Mhm.
cute, he's put these pictures of us with his daughters when we were that age, and he put this cute little thing. There's these people that saw you as a kid, and then I came back actually to Choate my senior year with a gold medal. So that was crazy too. I got to take two semesters off, come back from winning in, February of and graduate on time, and then Choate made a big deal out of it. They gave everyone the day off to watch the game. Um, and then
Uh,
we had this huge assembly with, I got to bring my medal and show everyone when I came back. So yeah, it was a great environment, for sure.
what was the biggest adjustment or maybe the toughest thing on the hockey side of things. I know you said the hockey side was easy, but in terms of like skill or on the ice, it seems just like you can do it all. Like what would you say was one of the hardest things for you to maybe get used to or get good at?
If I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I went from checking to non-checking. I got too many penalties, Lindsay. Well, because I
Really?
played boys hockey and think about how physical it was, and then I'm like playing girls hockey and I was stronger. So I was like not only stronger, more physical, but I didn't but it's a
Yeah.
different rule. You have to kind of rub the player and take the puck away from. You can't just run into people. So I had to that was a big piece of the hockey itself that I had to adjust for. Um, but I love the team. I love I had to push myself in a lot of ways, versus being pushed. So that was another, okay, what are you doing when no one's looking? Are you still first on, last off? Like, and this is what sport teaches you. Sometimes you're right in the middle of the pack, or you're the bench warmer, and sometimes you're the best player. And like, how do you get better even if you're the best player on the ice? And that's what I had to, okay, well, I still need to find extra ice. I played on a club team called the Connecticut Polar Bears. Um, so it was
Oh,
like
at the same time?
same time, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I would do my homework, get picked up from parent. Hey, I was dialing for dollars. Like, which parent will pick me up and take me to practice today? Literally, I'd get a ride to practice. They'd drop me off. On the weekends, I would play my choate sports, and then Sundays we had games. So I'm again, who could pick me up?
And you don't mean your parents because they
No,
weren't
not my
there.
parents. I
You're
had no ride. I
right.
didn't have a car, so had a list of all the parents, and I'm like, can you pick me? And I had no idea where they were coming from. I didn't, I'm in high school, geography. I'm clueless. I'm just like, who can help me? But like Julie Chu, who was my teammate in 3 Olympics, but she went to Choate and then she went to Harvard. Again, I always joke she followed me around. Her parents are amazing. They used to pick me up all the time. So you have these like really cool stories that kind of thread the needle. And I relied on, again, it takes a team. It wasn't only me getting myself to that gold medal. It was all these parents, it was all these teachers, it was obviously my family back home, but like there were a lot of others that contribute to your success, which is why again we're watching Milan and you're seeing those players and they flash to their families and the people
Yeah.
back home, the watch parties back home and all the like these athletes have so much support and some of it, maybe you don't realize it till like after the fact, but it takes so many people to get you to that podium. And you're again so grateful. I'm still grateful to everyone that helped me get there.
And also really cool that obviously it's like the athletes that continue at their craft are the ones that you know how to ask for the help and you do it in the right way.
Yeah.
You know what to ask for what you need, not just the rides, but also like just whatever it
Yeah,
is
but
too in your sport
yeah,
respectively.
Lindsay, think about that first statement before of like, I want to be an Olympian. And I'm by myself at a prep school, but I knew, okay, I got to get on the ice. And like, I don't feel guilt. I feel a little guilty, but I'm more like, I need you to help me. Like I picked up the phone or like you
Yeah.
create the environment. Yeah, I had to create the environment for me to be successful. And I needed people to obviously support me. I couldn't do it alone, but I had the Olympic rings in my head at age 12. They were, like, back there. Everything I did was like, I'm gonna play in the Olympics one day. I had a little hockey card of the 1980 men's hockey team because there was no such thing as women's hockey at that point, but I was a hockey player for career day in the 2nd grade, and everyone's like, "Who are you gonna be?" I'm like,
Really?
"Yeah," and I was like, "I don't know." I didn't wanna be Wayne Gretzky. Everyone's like, "You should be Wayne Gretzky." I'm like, "Okay, like, sure." I'm like, "I just wanna be a hockey player one day." Like, I didn't see myself as a 2nd grader because there was no women's hockey back there, but I was like, "I wanna play hockey one day." That's what I want my career to be. Like, there's all these little things I'm like, "Oh, that's so weird. How did I know?" I didn't, I just believed. Um, and you see that across
Yeah.
that thread, I think, is across a lot of these Olympians.
I think it's also across different, genres of life. It's like
Totally.
I can remember being like, okay, I really wanted to do broadcasting. Like, who are you going to ask questions to? Like, can I set a meeting with this person? Like, I would like to do that. This feels kind of weird to say, hey, can I just come talk to you? But I think that's like the secret
And you did
sauce,
it.
is what you're
And you
saying.
did it.
Yeah. And sometimes though I felt like an idiot, or you're like, or you're not, sometimes you're not doing obviously the thing that the lion's share of your peers are doing, right? Like, it obviously you weren't, and you're out of your comfort zone. Like, it's interesting how you perceive something after you're like having this conversation makes me think about that. Or like you're just putting in the extra hours, right? You're like, what do I need to do? And you pay the price in other ways,
Mhm.
like relationships suffer, whatever, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, but that is a common thread that's really interesting.
I think it's the same. I don't think it's sports. Yeah, it's you.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem is kids, adults even, pick something they want to do that they don't actually want to do. They get pulled into like whatever everyone else wants them to do. So if you can feel, if you're like, I want to be a broadcaster at 10, and everyone's like, well, you should get like a normal job and do this and that, and you like, okay, and you follow that, you're not going to be happy. You're probably not going to put in the extra time. But if you're like, no, I really want to do this, and you have family and people that support you, you're going to like self-select those conversations. You're going to self-select the environments. You're going to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and thrive in them. I one of the figure skaters in these Olympics, I think she said she loves adversity. And I was like, oh, I love it. It's like if you're in the right kind of
Yeah.
adversity, which is like towards something you want to achieve, it's awesome because you're going to learn and you're going to like be uncomfortable and you're going to get through it. And you're going to be like, oh, I can get through those kinds of things in the future. If you're in like adversity going towards the thing you shouldn't be doing, then like that feels bad and hard and you don't want to go there again. But like you probably knew you wanted to be a broadcaster before anyone else. Like you self-selected that and like paved the way to get here and put yourself in those environments and didn't take no for an answer. Or you were, I don't know, you were in, you tell me, like I'm sure it's a similar story. It's just different environment.
Yeah, I think it's different environments. It's like you right. I would say that the difference or the thing that might be a common thread is like I was really wanting to do stuff that took my like once I found what that feeling was for me, which was when we did this college show, it was a practicum, it was a class at my college. So we had to be every different role that it took to put on a broadcast. You had to be for like this 3-week span. And when it was my turn to co-host, I was like, "Oh my god, this is not work. This is the
Yeah.
best thing ever." And I remember being surprised at myself because I'm like, I am missing this sorority function because I want to do this. Like, I want to run around my campus dressed up in this weird thing and shooting this. It was this
You
different
lit up.
creativity that I felt.
You lit up. Yeah.
Yes, I was right. Lit me up. And so that it was like then it became chasing the feeling. And I thought for a long time, for me, I was like, news. I idolized Katie Couric. I wanted to do the Today Show, which is ironic because the man I married is in that role, which is so random. My mom would say, this is so embarrassing, WWKD. You know how people say, what would Jesus
Yeah,
do?
well, Katie.
What would Katie do? And I'm like,
That's
Mom,
hilarious.
stop. Like, don't say that in public. Anyway, but so then, and then anyway, long way, because I don't want to talk about myself, but like I ended up through a really crazy happenstance in the sports world. And it was a chance meeting on a weekend trip to Jacksonville that got me doing NASCAR stuff. That was the last thing I would have ever thought. It was doing motorsports coverage, and that kind of led to the next opportunity within sports. But I ended up taking gambles on experiences because I was offered a job doing sports in Miami, and it wasn't even, it was part
Mm,
time. And I remember being like, what am I doing? Like, I'm going to leave this news reporting job to go take this job in Miami, but everything about it feels really
totally.
exciting. And you brought this up before. I had like 3 or 4 people in my circle that I was like, these are my people that I trust. And I'm like, hey, this is what I think I want to do, but this feels really weird. And I kind of,
Mhm.
that was my group that I leaned on. And I took the job, and then
Yeah.
everything happened after that. Like, anyway,
But trusting
but
yourself, I think, is the biggest lesson, though. Like,
yes,
and being attuned enough to know what you want and to feel it, right? Like like
right.
I knew, okay, I'm going to be a hockey player in an environment where I was the only girl playing in the whole state. I wanted to be a hockey player like my whole childhood, but I couldn't see it. There's no I could see it, you can be it. But I didn't let that
That's
feeling
wild.
go,
Yeah.
right? And then you're like, oh, this Miami thing, part-time thing, but I light up when I do it, and I feel amazing, even though it's not what everyone else should be doing. And the people that you trust
Hmm.
knew you enough to be like, oh, I see your eyes get big when you talk about it. Go do it. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's too
Hmm.
many followers that just do what they think they should do, and versus like what really gets them excited, because you show up early, you stay late, you put in the work. I mean, Hillary Knight, bring it back. Hillary Knight, I remember, hey, Ange, hey, throw some pucks from the blue line. Okay, hell, okay, because you need someone to shoot the puck from the blue line for her to do the tip, right? If ever we're talking about hockey here,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
need someone to shoot the puck to practice those tip-in shots. Okay, she just nagged everyone for 2 decades. Just shoot the puck. Come on, I want to practice my tip shot. She scores the time goal with the tip-in shot. She's practiced that 100,000 times, easy. But that took someone to be like, well, I'm gonna score that goal one day. I'm gonna, so it's all psychological to me,
Yeah.
right? Sports, but I think
Yeah.
sports, though, you can see an outcome. It's harder in life to see the outcome. That's why we talk about sports.
Um, yes. And I do think so you went to Harvard. I think that's also a really interesting part of your story. Like, and I love how you have said that you felt like it pushed you in ways that you were excited about, which also was
Mhm.
relatable to sports. Um, and I love your sports innovation labs,
Mhm.
right? That's the
My company, yeah.
business that you began. So yeah, I with Harvard, like, can you explain a little bit of what that experience taught you, or what, what the most, when you look back, like, meaningful part of that process
Yeah.
was?
Yeah, again, I was intimidated, just like Cho, when I applied. And then I got
So
in.
let's go to Harvard.
And then I'm like, oh God, I got in. Do I go? And of course, I needed support to say yes. I said yes. And no, it was an amazing environment, not just for the sports. We were great. We won a national championship. I had a great team that I got to play on, but it was everything outside of the rink too. The people that were really good at like bird calling, or like national merit scholars, or like could speak 10 languages. I'm like surrounded by really interesting people that kind of got me outside of the hockey bubble. Honestly, when I was at the rink, I was like a hockey player, but then when I crossed that bridge, I was a student, and I got to absorb all these like amazing lessons and teachers and courses and people, and that, I think, opened my aperture, especially when I graduated. Even though I was still a hockey player, I was like, oh, there's this huge big world out there. One day when I'm done, I'll get to have the time to explore, because I couldn't do a lot when I was playing hockey. You're a hockey player. You got to go where you need to go, and train all the time, and literally travel with your bag everywhere. So you
Yeah.
don't have the same flexibility, but no, it taught me, I think, just that the world is a big place and fun place, and there's a lot that I could do one day. And it's when I went back to Harvard, to the business school. It's one of the reasons I retired. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I lit up again when I went to one of those classes. I'm a big nerd, I think, inside, but I was like, oh, cool. I get to learn about all the functions of running a company and what that would look like. And that gave me more confidence when I got through that, which was very hard. But when I got through it, to say, oh, I can start a company. Like, I don't know everything. I've never done it before, but
Yeah.
I have some of the tools, and I believe in myself, and I believe in what we could achieve. That's an entrepreneur. Like, it's like being an Olympian. You have to believe in something no one else can see, and convince those around you to either give you their money, work for you, buy the product. Like, you're kind of like the Tom Brady, like, it's going to happen, or the Hillary Knight, it's going to happen. So, I think, again, a lot of parallels to being an athlete and an entrepreneur. But it's all intimidating and scary and like hard, but in some ways I'm like, that's what I like. I like to be in those, I like to be pushed. I like to, see what else is in the tank, right? Like, this world is it's fleeting, it's short. Why not take risks? Why not do the things you love? Why not, go for gold? I'm not about playing it safe in general. And so Harvard gave me sort of the tools to like feel a little bit more confident in myself to go try those things, if that makes sense.
Wow.
And
And
sports,
what had
both of them, but they were all very hard. Believe me, I was not, I'm not a silver spoon kid. My parents never went to college. Straight A's don't come easy to me. I had to work really hard. I'll tell you a quick story. I started Harvard undergrad with C's. because my expectations are like, oh my God, I'm just happy to be here. Like, how did I even get in? And then I'm like, wait a second, I can do better than this, Angela. Like, and I wrote them down. I'm big on writing things down, like writing your goals down. I was like,
Like journal or just like bullet
no,
points?
like a little, yeah, like a little journal. And I'm like, and I had it for hockey, but I'm like, I'm going to start applying that same to academics. So I'm going to get B's this year. And I like got B's and a couple A's. I'm like, oh my God, I'm self-defeating myself. So I'm like, I'm going to get A's like my junior year. And I got A's and a couple B's. And by my senior year, I was a straight A student. I got the top 8 student athletes in the whole NCAA. Top 8, like student, and I won the Patty Caz, which is the
She's
top, it's like the
yeah.
Hobie Baker or the Heisman. Like I was, what? So and I look back to my freshman year and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get C's. Like I limited myself because I didn't believe, and and then when so that's again a very real example outside of sports of like, why did I go for the gold in sports, but like tell myself I'm not good enough in academics when I could be? It was all in the mind. It has nothing to do with like your capability. I think but it's not me. I'm not unique. I don't think I'm special. I think that's just, we're all capable of so many amazing things. And athletes show us what's possible because it's like on the scoreboard and it's easy to see and you're like inspired and you're like, oh, I can do that too. That's my hope, at least. That's what athletics is like. We leave those environments, we leave the Olympics and we're like, I can do it.
Yeah, well, that's so interesting because it's like, right, maybe it's like we maybe all have
We all
that,
have
but
it.
the sports is what shows us. I mean, to be fair, you are special. Like you are special. Like you're because I understand what you're saying that you're not, but it's like, I don't
But I don't
know.
think I am,
Like,
Lindsay.
like,
Lindsay, I don't think I'm that special. I think I've just, at a young age, honestly, I think it's just at a young age, because I had success in hockey and I could see it. I'm like, oh, that's the formula. Like, I think we're all special. I
yeah,
think we're all really gifted. I think we all self limit ourselves sometimes, or we follow the wrong path. But if you can get on the right, that's what, like the kids, I'm like, find something you love and work your tail off, like, and learn from this mistakes and get up and keep going. Like, but align yourself and then outwork everyone. Like, control the things you can control, and you can do anything, literally
yeah.
anything you want. You look where you are. You crushed the Olympics. You were so fun to work with. You were playing jazz. You're working with the producer and me, and you're putting it all together, and you're boom, and the timing, and like that didn't happen overnight. You had to practice that. That's like many reps on net, so to speak.
Oh, I like reps on net.
True. You had
I'm gonna
your
use that.
reps on net
I
or in
like
front of
that.
the camera. I mean, I saw it. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
God, there's a million things. Lindsay, here, you have the ball. Just pull me in when you need me.
Yeah, it is. It is there. Well, yes, that is a different thing about the Olympics because it's also like you're jumping into sports that you're not necessarily covering all the time. Although hockey is one that you could cover all the time if you have that as your job. But yeah, oh God, there's so many different places I want to go. But this obviously we're gonna have to have you come back. But I do want to talk to you about the state of women's hockey because part of one of the other things that I thought was so cool working with you in Beijing is like between the Beijing games and the Milan Cortina games, the game of hockey on the women's side has really come so far. But what do you think this experience has done for the game and what are you seeing? And what should people be thinking about? Like
Yeah.
this audience is awesome
Yeah.
because I feel like they are sports savvy, but they're also very big picture savvy. So it's just they get the threads that we're talking about. I wish they could be a live
Yeah.
audience right now and chiming in with questions, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I think I said it before the Olympics. I think I told you that. I said this was going to be the biggest Olympics for women's hockey outside of the 98
Yeah.
team, the introduction to like women's hockey. Because a few things. One, women's sports is just on the rise. So I think more people are just paying attention to women's sport, not as like a novelty, but a genuine, like, I want to watch some awesome athletes. And the world's giving everyone, men and women, girls and boys, permission to like just tune in to awesome athletes. Two, I
Yeah.
think women's hockey in general just continues to rise. You have the PWHL now, the Professional Women's Hockey League here, and there's been many pro leagues, but this is sort of the most professional one that's sort of come out. You have the NCAA that continues to churn out amazing athletes. And the athletes themselves are just elevating the game. We saw that. Like they're just skill wise, they just keep getting better and better. So you have this like great product coupled with like this movement around women's sports in general. And hockey is just like continue. It's not, it's not soccer and basketball and volleyball, it's sort of that middle tier, I would say. But I think these Olympics exposed what a fast, dynamic, intense, aerobic, anaerobic, skill based, team based sport. Like, I think it's the best sport in the world. I don't think it's gotten the same coverage and visibility, but what like most you see it live or you play, you're like, oh, of course, I'm addicted to this game. It is such a fun sport.
Yeah.
It is everything I want as a fan or as a player. Um, you know, and not to discredit other sports, but like I think it is like the hardest sport to master. I think there's and it is so fast and it is this like skilled team like wizards on ice trying to move the puck into this little goal, right? It's just like a fun so I think it got that kind of elevation both on the men's and the women's side. And you cap that off with gold medals, which in America we know America likes a winner. I've come home with a silver couple times, and it's just not the same reception as winning a gold. When you win that gold, and you get to see the gloves going up and everyone's jumping on each other and the flag being raised. It's just a different emotion. So I think this is kind of the coming out for women's hockey, for hockey in general. I think it was just a great moment for everyone. And I hope to see, more kids sign up and more fans as a result.
What's it like in hockey in terms of the balance between men's and women's and the experience there? You talked about it playing on a boys team, but also just as you've come up, like what can you share about that experience? And maybe there's a common thread there
Yeah.
too about what women experience across different industries.
Yeah, I think that's why the aftermath of the locker room call had such resonated with so many women. In hockey, it's a boys' sport. I mean, it's always been a boys' sport. It's maybe in USA Hockey, maybe 20% of registered athletes are girls or women. So, and when I played, there were 5,000 total. Like no
Wow.
girls didn't
Wow.
play. So again, you were the only girl. Every one of my teammates either changed their name on the roster or cut their hair, so, tuck their ponytail or oh yeah,
Seriously?
or got cut. I got cut from teams that my brother made. I mean, we all experienced discrimination. Today's athlete, thankfully, doesn't have the same, but there's still an underlying. You grow up, okay, the girls have maybe the worst practice time, or they don't have access to the same marketing to elevate their college hockey, or there's these subtle forms of kind of discrimination still in the sport, unfortunately, that don't it's not treated equally with the boys or the men. um
Mhm.
and so yeah, I think we grow up as a female hockey player kind of the little chip on your shoulder, like we want to just be treated equally. That's it. We're not asking for more or better. We're just asking for the same, and not to have jokes thrown at us or names called, or and my dream, honestly, Lindsay, is that we're covering the women's tournament 2030, the final day. Why can't women's hockey be in that prime time? Nothing else on the calendar. We would have exponentially more viewers because it'd be prime time. Like those are the subtle things. You're like, oh, why is women's hockey slated for a Thursday at 1 against figure
Right.
skating, which I also want to watch? Like, why can't we just watch the women's game and it be put on a pedestal on the final day like the men always get? Like those are the little things that when you take a step back, you're like, oh yeah, there is still this layer of discrimination in our sport, unfortunately. And the players, you kind of get used to it, like life. But it's not to say you're not going to keep pushing and trying to make it better for the next generation.
Right. Right. It's like you've come far, there's still a really far way to go. Um, I think it's important to pay attention too to those subtleties and to voice them so that it is
Yeah, so everyone
there's an
call in BC and go,
awareness.
we want the women on the final. Put the women on the final in 2030. We want it like right before the
Right.
closing ceremony. Yep.
Yes, yes. Wait, so and how do you have two kids, you're married. How do you balance all of it? What do you
I don't think there's ever balance is the right word.
Yeah.
You ebb and flow. Like this week, I'm back now and I'm like, okay, everything for the kids. I'll make myself available. I'm dropping anything because I was away for 3 weeks. So I think there's a whole, it's like hockey. Like you're making sacrifices here and there. I just honestly try to prioritize myself too. Like am I rested? Do I have, because then you can give more back to your family or your work or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. But I don't think there's ever like balance. I think, okay, well, I just don't see my friends for the next month. Like you kind of pick and choose what you're going to prioritize and try to do your best in the process. But I'm big on like, if I'm exhausted because I'm burning the candle in a million different ends, like you're just not good at all. So I try to get sleep.
Yeah.
I try to prioritize my family whenever possible and say no to more, honestly. When I was an athlete, it was easy to say no because everyone's like, oh, you're training. Of course, you don't have to do anything. And then when you're like an adult, it's like, no, you're expected to be at everything. So like giving myself permission and not putting as much pressure on myself to say yes to everything that I get asked to do is like been really hard, but think I'm getting better at it. I don't know.
What is your thought process? How do you make a decision like that might end in a no? What have you adopted as your
I think I
strategy?
just try to see how I feel. Does it feel good and exciting, or is it hard? But it's hard because it's not the right thing, or it's hard. Like there's a difference between pain. Here's my example: pain and discomfort. Pain you don't do. Pain is like you're gonna break your leg, or it's like that dissonance that you feel when you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. Discomfort is like, oh, I really don't want to like say yes to this thing, but it'd be really good for me and like good exposure and help. And but it's a lot of work, and oh God, I'm intimidated, or
Mhm.
I gotta, that's okay. You say yes to those things because it's gonna make you better in some way. So yeah, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but
Yeah.
the like things that are you don't have to do, I don't know, that are more socially based. Like again, with family, I just can't do a lot of that fun stuff. That's why I try to find more fun in my job and the people that I'm around, because the my 20s are very different. Right? I don't know, what do you do?
Yes.
What's your parameter
Yeah,
overall?
well, I'm not good at that, but that's why I ask. I was hoping I could take some some
I
of
just
your
I just think it's
athlete-based
okay.
Harvard
When
advice.
I was an athlete, literally it was I could say no to everything. And people were okay with that because they're like, "Oh, you're training. So we're not going to peer pressure you to do all this stuff, and we understand you're busy." And like there was this like guardrail, right? And then
Yeah.
professionally, you're just expected to be on for everyone all the time. And I'm like, so I honestly I give myself permission to say no and be okay with that now in a way that 10 years ago I'd probably say yes and be exhausted and burn out, honestly
I
burn
think
out.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And my husband's actually really good at that too. He's mastered that. And I think because a lot of it is like the nature of his job and the demand of how wacky his hours
Yeah.
are, it makes it pretty easy for him to see. I think it kind of comes back to, for me, a little bit of what we talked about as like expectations in the same type of thing of like following what you know is like the thing that you want to
Yeah.
do. It's like, oh, feeling bad.
But maybe, what if
Which
you
is
gave yourself permission to say no because you're like, I'm going to have more in the tank for tomorrow because I have this really big show. And you can like
yeah.
trick yourself into letting yourself off the hook.
I think that's a really good idea. I'm gonna apply
That's-
that and let you know how that
I'm going to
goes.
say no and have a
Um,
bubble bath and be ready for tomorrow.
right. I'm gonna focus on some me time. Um, I went this whole time without asking you, what is something that no one tells you that you have experienced from your journey that you think it would be helpful for people to know?
What have I experienced from my journey? Um, to have fun. Does that make sense?
So the thing no one tells you is the importance of having
Yeah.
fun.
I've had to learn. I had fun playing hockey. When it became a job, I wasn't good at it. I was like half-assing it. In work, when I wasn't having fun, it was the same thing. It was like dreadful. Like when I'm with my kids and they're being a pain in the butt, I remind like when I'm having go into it with more joy and like I don't know, like I have to remind myself, and I wish someone reminded me earlier. Like remember when you have fun, you thrive, Angela. And not that I don't have, I guess I don't know if I'm explaining myself. It's
Yeah.
the thread that I'm like, oh, when I'm enjoying myself and I'm having fun, when I'm remembering this is supposed to be fun, I'm following the right path. I'm in the moment with my kids or with my family, or I'm in the um like that's what life is supposed to be. Like you don't have to follow the hard, even though it's hard, it's fun, if that makes sense. So
I think everyone will deal with hard times for certain. We know
for
that,
sure.
but it's making sure that we understand that it actually is supposed to feel
Feel
easy
easy. Maybe
sometimes,
that's not fun.
right?
Easy. Yeah.
But you're right, but fun, I think that can feel like fun. Like when I think back to this Olympic experience we're talking about, whenever someone asks me, I'm like, the feeling that comes to mind is just fun. And it also feels easy. And it's not easy, but it was like this feeling of everyone's working together. You've got the people in
Yeah.
position. You know that the thing can get done. There are hard parts along the way, but you work
Yeah.
together as a group and figure it all out. Like, but it feels just fun. Like I don't
I
know.
think
It's hard to describe. But you're right.
it's like
Simple.
aligned and present. You're present and you're letting the moment come in, like you're feeling the moment and you're then responding to the moment. And so it's like this light, like it's not like the pressure of live TV and like the urgency of the thing. You're like, oh yeah, this is fun. Like let's go, let's do it. And it's that like maybe
Yeah.
presentness. I don't know if that makes.
Yeah, and I think that presentness allows for
Yep.
connection. And that is something too that I think about a lot. It's like that personal connection, human connection that comes
Mm,
up
yeah.
that like right. For me, it feels like when you and I are talking about a moment in hockey and it feels like, oh, that was fun and easy. It's when you're making this point and you're like, yes, that makes so much sense because it's also
Yeah.
relatable. And now I feel like I'm just talking deep thoughts with
Yeah.
Lindsay, but
Yeah,
like,
but
yeah,
but
there's a there
yeah,
there.
but you also had to receive that. Like you had to be listening and open and present, which
Yeah.
again, I've been in a same conversation with someone and they're like stressed about what they're going to say next, or they're not
Right.
really there with you. So I think we did. I loved working with you because it was like, oh yeah, you're right, and like you genuinely were like present, listening, excited, hearing, and then you would ask a question and you'd draw something else out of me, and I'm like, oh yeah, and then this other time, and then like we should bring that up. So that's why I always use the expression jazz. It's like you got to play jazz.
Right. I noticed that. I was like, there wasn't jazz music playing, but do you think everybody,
I use that's
yeah,
my expression. Just say like jazz music is like I love jazz. I don't love jazz, but I like the idea of jazz. Like that's hockey. You're reading, reacting, you're responding in the moment. But in order to do that really well, which is a hockey player or a jazz musician, or you with your kids, right? It's you got to be present. You got to be listening. You got to be open. It's got to go both ways. And then you're kind of like I said, playing jazz. You're you're moving the puck really well. And when Megan Keller sprints, Heisey knows where she is without calling for it all the way, all the way down the ice. She knows to send that puck, and you're like, you're there. That is the flow of life. Like if you can get into the flow of life, and that's what I forget sometimes. Is I get so, I got to get this next thing, and I got to do this thing, and I'm in my head versus like present. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Like, right?
wow. The thing no one tells you is that part of the secret of enjoying life is being present and having fun, and that should feel
And
easy.
light, and that's what we
I
talked about. Those players, they're having fun. They're light. They're like there, and they're
right.
and we could see in that final they were like choking their sticks a little, right? And they were a little nervous and probably weren't like settled into their bodies with each other. And the second they did, they played jazz together and they scored that goal and they won the Olympics, right? They were there.
And you kept saying that they had to manufacture their that underdog mentality a little bit, or not manufacture, maybe that's the wrong word, but like you've got to, if you're not the underdog and if you're so favored, you have to create that underdog feeling, which I think is so interesting as a
Yeah.
concept in general too. Flow. So it's so interesting that you say that because I have heard a few different sports stars, athletes, whatever, use the word in my flow. I've heard it in racing, but I remember Russell Wilson talked about it a lot when he was in his like heyday with the Seahawks. And I was like, what is flow? But you're exactly right. That's what it is when you're in flow. And hockey, I loved the descriptions of it this time during the Olympics of how I didn't realize that because I've never played, like just how much of a, yeah, orchestra or jazz or flow it
Yeah.
really is. But you're right. That's super relatable
Yeah.
and awesome.
Yeah, because I think for me, my best hockey was I was aware of what's going on and all the noise and the pressure and all the things, but I was on the ice with my teammates. Where's the puck? Where are we? How are we gonna do this right now? And then you could respond on a dime, on a split second, like you're reading and reacting in the moment because you're actually present and you're in that and doing it with a team. That's the biggest thing. You could be in flow, but your teammates are not, and they're like in their heads stressed out about scoring with 2 minutes to go. Right? That doesn't work in a
Yeah.
team situation. You need everyone to kind of be like playing jazz and flow with you. That's life too. Like we were in flow together. We were like, let's go.
Yes. Oh my
Anyway,
gosh. All right. Well, I think we've solved a
so
lot of
fun. Solve
issues.
world peace.
You're the
Yeah.
best. I can't wait to do this again. But thank you so much for taking all the time. And I'm so glad you had fun over in
So fun.
Italy.
The whole thing was fun. Who doesn't love the Olympics?
Yeah, right. Oh, so good. So good. Where can we see you next?
Well, I'll be covering the women's NCAAs this year for ESPN. So tune in this weekend. We'll do the selection show, and then the finals will
Perfect.
be later this month. So yeah, the semis and finals, and then otherwise, I'm around. I'll hopefully we'll see each other in 4 years and doing it again.
Yes. All right. I hope to see you before 4 years, my friend. But no,
Yeah,
thank
of
you so
course.
much for coming on. And you're the best. I feel like we covered so much ground that I did not expect to cover in that conversation. But I just, Angela is obviously extremely smart. She's such a great athlete, but I just love the way that she thinks about things and her thought process. So I too just want to shed light on the fact that watching that gold medal game was so intense, watching it with her, because she was so excited. And I knew that she had so much emotion, obviously invested in this, that it just brought a whole new level to it. But it was such an incredible experience because of how close it was. And coming down to that final moment, it was just elation. And the way she described it was back to when she won gold, just saying that it just is a moment when that happens and you win the gold where this floodgate of emotions opens and you just can't control it. And it really is just a moment of emoting everything and everyone that has helped you get to that point in general. So I just thought that was so cool. I do just want to shout out Angela because the work that she does as an advocate for women's hockey, it really is immeasurable. And her involvement too in getting the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League, where it is now, they would not be there if it weren't for some of her support and her leadership. So that is super cool. I hope that you will watch Angela as she's, coming up in different hockey coverage, and we will put in our show notes all the things, where to find her, and all the other things. So as always, thank you so much for watching, for listening. And we hope that you will like and subscribe and rate and review. And maybe the best way to support is send an episode to a friend. So thanks so much for checking out this week's episode of Things No One Tells You. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much for joining me. I can't wait to see you back here next week. Please don't forget, follow and subscribe to Things No One Tells You. And of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave a 5-star review, because that's really what helps people get more listeners. We would love to grow this community. We are so grateful that you're a part of it. See you next time.